Thank you to our friends at RefReps for their support of the From A to Zebra podcast. Full library of podcast episodes is now available at refreps.com under the resources page. Podcast music by the Black Moods. Check out their new hit single, Red Lights. And now, Season 3, Episode 23, Letter F, Foundation. Join host Dana Pappas with special guest James Carter on the From A to Zebra podcast.
Welcome back to the From A to Zebra podcast. I'm Dana Pappas. My co-host Nate Acosta is somewhere at 30,000 feet right now, so I'll be flying solo as the host of this episode. And on this episode, we're talking about the letter F and the topic of the officiating foundation, both on and off the playing surface. Our guest today is James Carter. James began officiating high school basketball and football in 1998 and began his collegiate football officiating career in 2005 in the SIAC, OVC, SWAC, and Conference USA. He currently works as a referee in the SEC and has earned over a dozen postseason assignments, including a CFP semifinal and 2 SEC championship games. In addition to his service as a college football official, James has also worked in the XFL and USFL and is a referee in the UFL. He has also officiated, and here's a fun fact I didn't know about James. He has also officiated basketball and lacrosse at the collegiate levels. The lacrosse thing, I was like, I've met you so many times, I didn't know that. So we're going to get into that in a few minutes. But James, welcome to the show. It's so great to see you.
Thanks, Dana. Great to see you, and thanks for having me.
Absolutely. It's an honor to have you on the show, and right before the start of the football season, so it's certainly timely to have you on. So before we really get into the topic of the day, can you tell us about yourself and your officiating journey, how you got started and your stops along the way to where you are? And you need to tell us about the lacrosse thing too, because that's awesome. So if you want to jump in and kind of tell us all the things about your officiating career, that would be wonderful.
Okay, sure. Well, actually, there was one thing that you didn't mention. Well, growing up in Selma, I played all 3 sports. I played basketball, football, and baseball all through high school. And coming back from college one summer, there was a gentleman who was my coach in baseball at the youth park I played at. So actually, the first sport I ever officiated or umpired was baseball.
Oh my gosh, didn't know that.
Yes, and I did that for a year or two. That'd be my summer job coming back home from college. And then I took a hiatus of probably almost 10 years before I got back into officiating. And at that particular point in time, had a growing family. So just trying to figure out, how can I make a little extra money? And officiating popped into my head because my dad was also an official. So he was an official, basketball and football. And I started basketball and football officiating, like you said, in 1998. After about 7 or 8 years of officiating those sports, there was a gentleman who came to me and suggested that I go to a camp. And this is right around the time when camps were becoming more popular, because before then we knew nothing of camps and we really didn't know the pathway that would lead to, getting into collegiate conferences and things of that nature. And he asked me to come to a camp with the SIAC. And the first year I didn't. So he saw me the next year, said, "Oh, you're not serious about this." And I was like, "Okay, I'm coming. I ended up going to the camp and I got picked up by the SIAC that year, worked a few clock games. I also had a couple of games on the field. And the next year I had half a schedule on the field, and then also ended up getting picked up by the OBC that year as well. Coordinator Jim Jackson saw me and he allowed me the opportunity to join the OVC. And I worked deep wing at the time. The unique thing about Jim is that he saw something in me, I guess, that I didn't see in myself as far as becoming a referee one day. So I would come back home from Saturday game. I would go to Birmingham Southern on Sundays and I would work as a referee doing some D3 games. And I did that for a couple of years there. Then also a year after that, I had the opportunity to get into Conference USA, which was a great learning experience. At that time, you had probably most of the NFL guys coming out of Conference USA. So that was an awesome learning experience for me. Also got picked up in the SWAC and worked there for about 4 years, and eventually was seen at a camp in Jackson, Mississippi by the coordinator of officials, who was then Steve Shaw, and got picked up in the SEC. So I worked deep wing most of my officiating career in football, and he sat me down one day and said, "Hey, I got a plan for you. Just think about doing this." He said, "I want you to be a referee one day." And after about 4 or 5 years of maybe working 1 or 2 games in the SWAC, working a game or here or there in the SEC, he pulled the trigger. So I think it was in 2016 where I became a crew chief for the SEC, and I guess the rest is history.
That's amazing. So when basketball, also collegiate, and lacrosse collegiate,
Okay.
when did those happen? Like, when did you have time for that?
Well, I was doing basketball, high school basketball and football at the same time. And to be honest, I really was more interested in basketball. I really wanted to be a basketball official. And for whatever reason, football took off a lot faster than basketball. And then with my family and the sports that my boys were playing, I was like, you know what? If I do the football, I can have the time off for basketball season because of the sports they were doing. So it worked out. So I think after maybe 3 or 4 years, once I got into football fairly deep, I went to a couple of basketball clinics, and I was able to get into some JUCO and D2 women's basketball, and I worked there for 7 or 8 years, probably almost 10 years before I resigned from that. Then with lacrosse, that was a way for me to kind of stay in shape leading up to football season. And my
That'll do
brother
it.
introduced me to yeah, it will. My brother introduced me to that on the high school level. They were really needing lacrosse officials in the Birmingham area. It was becoming real big. So I did it for about 12 years on the high school level, and then also was able to be fortunate enough to get into some JUCO and D2, D3 lacrosse officiating for a period of time before I stopped there. So I've had some great opportunities to do various things officiating wise.
That is super cool. The lacrosse thing threw me because we get a lot of football, basketball, but seldom do we get football, basketball, lacrosse. And I know you started in baseball, so you're a well-rounded man, James. I tell you what. So we're going to now jump into the first aspect of the topic of foundation. You mentioned it as we were talking. You've been an athlete your entire life, baseball, basketball, and football from youth through high school, and then a collegiate tennis player, another wild card at Alabama State. There's so much about you. So reading through looking for you online, doing the show, I have to do a little bit of cyber stalking, so I apologize in advance for that. But how did your experiences as an athlete create a foundation for your officiating career?
Well, I think the biggest thing with being an athlete is your discipline. There are lots of practices. There'll be times that you don't want to, get up and do things or what have you as it relates to whatever sport that you are going to be a part of. But the discipline is huge. The willing to be coached. You have to be coachable as well. So those two things play a big part in transitioning from athlete to officiating. The great thing about being an athlete is that you have the opportunity to get that perspective from the player side. So you think you know the rules, and you don't. I'll say you don't. It's just amazing how many. It's amazing how many players think they know the rules, but they haven't, done a deep dive to really understand what's going on. So we think we know the rules, but once we get into the officiating aspect, we're introduced to that, and it's like, oh wow, that's a whole nother box to open up. So
man, that
just
official was right all along.
Exactly. So and it's interesting. That at least it was interesting. Coming up because I was like, I think I know this and I think I know that, but once you really start to read the rule book and break it down and digest it, it's something different. But that part of actually playing the sport, it also helps you with mechanics. You're able to see what, a player is trying to do, and you're able to put yourself where you need to be in order to see the necessary action.
Or sometimes get out of the way if you know the play's coming right at you. So that's always helpful.
Definitely.
And kind of along those same lines, and you were there a little bit with the rules stuff, but with your life as an athlete, what were some of the most difficult things for you transitioning from player to official?
Probably emotions.
Okay.
Well, I say two things: emotions, and also watching the action as an athlete. As an athlete, you're watching the ball, you're involved in the play per se, and you want to make sure that you are watching that focal point there. With officiating, of course, you can't you can't mm, can't be watching the action all the time. There's a lot of off-ball things that are going on that you have to watch to make sure that you are a part of things that aren't necessarily at the focal point of the play. So removing yourself from the ball and watching the perimeter, whether it be basketball, whether it be football, you're just watching action around the perimeter. Also, I mentioned the emotion part of the emotional aspect. Okay, as an athlete, you just know you're always amped up and you're a part of that emotional aspect of the game. But as an official, you have to be the calm in the eye of the storm,
For sure.
regardless of of what's happening over here, regardless of what's happening over there. You're the one that everybody's looking to for guidance, and you have to make sure that you're professional and fair and consistent with it.
You're the one who, when all the wheels fall off, you got to figure out how to put them back on the car. So that's always a challenge.
That's a hard ask sometimes.
It is. And I think that's something we don't think a lot about, because so many officials were athletes or continue to be athletes. And that is hard to disconnect yourself from where the action is. It's the same as being a fan. A fan's always going to watch where the ball is. They're watching all of that action, whereas the official, that might not be where they're looking. And that's probably why average sports fans don't like watching sports with officials, because we're all looking where no one else is. They're like, did you see that? No, I didn't, because I was looking at where that official is standing. Like, we're looking at positioning and mechanics and all of that, and everybody else is looking for the dunk and
You're right.
It's crazy. It ruins your sports viewing experience as a fan forever.
Well, one of the most asked questions that I get is, how did you see that? And first thing I asked, I said, what were you looking at? I was watching the ball. I was watching this over here. And I explained to him is that, in my sport, we have different areas of the field that we're watching. So we don't see what another official sees. We're watching our area and we have to rule on things in that particular area. And so they'll ask also, with me being, the crew chief with the white hat reporting the fouls, well, can't you overrule that? No, I did not see what they saw. Exactly. I didn't see what they saw. And that's the other aspect, is the teamwork. You have to be able to trust your teammates and go with what they're seeing and, make the best possible judgment and decisions in those cases.
So you've been an official in basketball, football, and lacrosse, and you've reached the collegiate level in all three of those sports, which is obviously no easy feat. What are some foundational aspects of officiating that really translate to every sport?
I would say game management is probably number one. That's the thing that you carry from one sport to the next. It's sort of like some of the sports that you play: basketball, soccer, football, footwork. The footwork translates from one sport to the next. So with game management, that translates from one sport to the next. And really, that's just about, unless I don't really like to say control of the game, but just being consistent in recognizing, your foul recognition, your communication with the coaches and the players, and just making sure that there's a presence felt there that, hey, this guy knows what he's doing. He's in charge of what's going on in the game. He's going to show everybody some fairness and give everybody equity in the situation, because you have two teams out there who practice hard all week, and you want to be able to show that equity so that no one feels like, there's anything going on against them. So game management is probably number one in that situation. Also, you want to be knowledgeable of the rules. I think that if you take any sport, probably 90% of the time, the same thing is going to happen in a game. It's just going to be different ways.
Right.
But the same thing is going to happen. So I tell, officials, if you can get the basics of the rules down to that 90% and then grow to learn the other 10% where you have those outlying rules that come up once every 10, 15, 20 years, I think you will have set a strong foundation for yourself as far as the rules knowledge. And mechanics, you can't do without mechanics. You have to be able to be in position to see what you need to see and make judgments, consistent judgments on those things you need to see when you need to see them. And so I think those are probably my top three.
And that's such a good set of answers. And I think, that game management, we talk so much about that obviously at the high school level, because that's a learned trait. That's not something that's in any single book. It's a combination of everything that's in all the books, but being able
Yes,
to practically apply that. And it's the communication aspect. It's the coach trusting that, hey, that official's going to listen to me and respond when I need a response. And the heightened sense of awareness and dead ball situations and all of those things that it's not necessarily embedded in a book anywhere, and you can't develop it without reps. So I think that that's the thing that is difficult, because we always talk about the importance of game management, but you can't get that in a box and hand it to someone. That just takes time and experience and repetition.
definitely agree with that. Those are some of the soft skills that just especially with newer officials, it's just going to be a learned experience through time. But I think that we talk about the rules knowledge and we talk about the mechanics, which are your hard skills, but a lot of times we don't spend enough time, I think, with the communication aspect and then learning the other soft skills that you're going to put, in your toolbox to help you become a much better official.
And it's so hard to teach, because a lot of times officials will want a script. And it's like, well, there is no script, because every coach is going to say something different. Your crew is going to be different. So there's no way for you to be like, hold on, let me pull this out. What did he just say to me? Oh, here's my answer. Like, it's going to depend on the demeanor of that coach. It's going to depend on the situation. So it is difficult. We used to get that a lot in the state office in New Mexico of, well, do you have like words, things that I could tell the coach? And I'm like, no, because you have to develop your own communication style. Like, what works for somebody who's
Yes.
done it for 25 years may not work for you in your first year, because there's a rapport that develops as well. So it's just those it factors that we talk about a lot in officiating and on this podcast, that are super important as people are developing as officials. So obviously, James, I've been fortunate to be able to meet and get to know you through the Ref Academy football camp, which I'm wearing their gear. Shout out to AJ,
Appreciate it.
for hooking me up with the flag. That's held in Birmingham, Alabama each summer. Amazing camp. The entire staff at the camp is comprised of NFL and high-level collegiate football officials that are giving back to high school officials through training and education. Why is the outreach to the foundation of officiating, our high school officiating community, so important to you and to the staff for Ref Academy?
Well, we just hit on it just a little bit in the previous topic, but when I was coming through, there was really, other than just the high school officials, there weren't a lot of people who took a lot of interest in helping you to up your game as an official, I should say. There, you had a handful, but as far as overall and trying to figure out, hey, this can be something bigger along the line, there really wasn't that. So as I've matriculated through, this the my officiating journey over the past 20 some odd years, I just felt like giving back to the high school officials was paramount. It's there where your professional players, college professional players come from. It's there where your collegiate and professional officials come from. And to be able to give them a jump start or a head start on some of these things that they'll see down the road, I think is great for them. And also looking at it from the perspective of community, I've seen so many things happen with young officials in high school where we couldn't retain them because of different things that have happened. And I think that if someone is putting in the time and showing them that it's not necessarily anything that's personal to you, it's just that people have a passion for their teams. So they can develop these soft skills, like I mentioned, like communication, or just the mental aspect of, let that, like, duck off a water's back, let it slide,
Right.
you know. So an official told me one time, he said, you know what, when you go to a game, 50% of the time, you're going to be correct. And when he said that, it hit me, because it's like, you know what, regardless of what I do, it's only going to be one half of the fans who are happy this time. The other half is going to be happy the other time. So the best thing that I can do is just do the best job that I can do possible. And like I said, show fairness in those situations, and also be consistent in how the game is administered. So I want to grow officials and retain them so that we can continue, um, providing officials for the various groups that we have involved.
And I love that. Of course, my space is the high school space. So when I'm at that camp, and I'm always so grateful to be able to attend and just kind of be a fly on the wall in a lot of ways, because watching the officials at that camp learn from the best of the best, I mean, is one of the coolest experiences that I've been able to be a part of in my professional career. And, hanging out during the scrimmages and seeing, all of you out on the field, helping them get in position and really talking about officiating with them. And then seeing that you all are just people too, even though you're in the SEC or even
Right.
though you're in the NFL or wherever the case may be. And that builds community for officials. And I think that you all are so spot on with all of that. And it's just important for those officials to have people to look up to, and people who, if one of those individuals needed you, you would answer the phone. I mean, those are the kinds of things that they're developing this network that they probably never thought possible. And
Right.
giving them that kind of that lifeline line is super, it's encouraging. And I think that it's important for the officials at our level to know how much you all are really giving back and pouring into the grassroots level. And it's significant. It really is.
Well, that's all of our foundations. So it's important to give back to that foundation so that we can continue to grow the art of officiating. So, and we
Absolutely.
appreciate you coming down every year too. You provide some great information for us, and we appreciate you.
Oh, I appreciate that. It's such an honor, and it's, now that I've gone a couple of years, I feel kind of like it's old home day when I go down there, and it's just, I still think the thing that blows me away was going to a scrimmage, and I was like, are there bands and cheerleaders here? I was like, things are different in Alabama in May. I'm like, do they know this game is like, it's not actually a game, it's just practice? I was like, am I allowed to say that here? So that blew my mind. The first thing I did when I got to my hotel room was called my dad, and I was like, Dad, you're not going to believe this, because my dad raised me on football. So I got to call and tell him, and he was like, bands at a scrimmage? I was like, yeah, I was like, the snack bar was open. Like, I don't know what's going on, but it's just a cool experience, and you guys do a great job with the camp. So I'm looking forward to May already, and football season hasn't even started this year. So
Looking forward
that's
to
a cool
having
thing
you.
to have to look forward to. So speaking of camp, the development of officiating foundational skills can begin and continue to be developed in the off season. In addition to camps, what are some things that you've done throughout your officiating career to add to and strengthen your officiating foundation in the off season?
Okay, great question. First of all is, do some self-evaluation through film review. I go back and I look at all of my films from the previous season, and also film from other guys. So it's the self-evaluation. And I tell officials that you should be harder on yourself than anybody else can be. You want to pick or nitpick everything you do with a fine-tooth comb. So by the time somebody else sees it and they hit you with it, then it's like, okay, I know that, but what advice can you provide for me to help me to be better with these particular situations? So film study with the self-evaluation is a good thing that I do every year. Of course, rule study, that goes without saying. You can't just open the book up once the season starts. That's probably reading throughout the entire year, every year. And it's funny because a guy that was on my crew a couple of years ago, he pulls out his little blue book with the rules book, and he's reading it. And his daughter comes up to him and says, "Daddy, you not through reading that book yet?" He's like, "Baby, I have to read this book every year. I'm looking at something every year in this book, so I will never finish reading it." And I just thought that was, that was funny at the time.
But
And
she's
then
like, well, Dad,
also,
you're reading slow.
yes, 1 page per day.
That's right. Forever.
Yes. But so that's something that I do. Also, I speak with other officials, now season. If I see plays that I have questions about or how they may have handled those, I'll talk to them about it and see, what could have been done differently, or if there were some best practices that were recommended for that particular situation, how we can go along. And then, also I'll reach out to the supervisor or coordinator officials from time to time just to see what ideas they might have as far as how to handle different situations, whether it be on the field with the players or whether it be just communication with the coaches. So you're always trying to find little tricks to put into your bag so that you can be more prepared for situations that come up.
I love that. So this is advice time. So for officials who are just getting started in their careers, What do you feel are the most important elements of a solid officiating foundation?
I'll say this backwards. What I did when I first started officiating football on the high school level, one guy told me to learn the mechanics of the game. And everybody says rules, and I get that. You do have to be, a rules guru.
Sure.
But he told me, he said, learn the mechanics, because when you learn the mechanics, it puts you in the position that you need to be in. And then when coaches see you and they have questions, it's like, well, he was in the right place, or he seemed to be in the right place, looking in the right place. So maybe I can't argue with him on that. So I would say the mechanics of the game, whatever game it is that you are officiating, of course, the rules. I mentioned be coachable. Nothing irks signers, nothing irks older officials or more seasoned officials worse than somebody who is not coachable. I think that sometimes with the younger, generation, they'll read or they'll Google something, they'll find something out. Oh yeah, I know this. And it's like, there's
Not yet.
much more to it. This is surface level that you're looking at. It's much more to it. So I've actually seen guys be let go because they were, for lack of a better term, arguing with somebody or a clinician or somebody that was at the game, providing them feedback after the game, and they just wouldn't let go of what their perspective was. So you have to be coachable and understand that whatever's being presented to you is coming from a place of love and concern. Everybody wants you to be better. So we're just trying to provide feedback so that you can be better. How you accept it is up to you. And then I also think that for those younger officials, really work on your communication skills. That seems to be a dying skill set as generations progress. So if you're not able to have a face-to-face conversation with the coach in a heated environment, there's some books out there that you can read, or some suggestions that you can take, from other officials as well, that will help you to navigate those situations.
Man, the coachability, we talk a lot about that, especially in camp situations. Don't be a yeah better. Like nobody wants that person who has an excuse for everything. It's like you have to listen, and maybe not everything the clinician or the supervisor tells you is going to really resonate with you, but
Right.
that doesn't mean you have to disagree with them in the moment, especially if that's the person who's assigning your games. You're probably going to want to listen to them. So trying to get people to understand that it's not about a debate. It's about, here's what I observed. I'm trying to make you better. I'm not trying to pick on you. I'm really trying to provide you information to progress. This isn't
Right.
to tear you down. It's to help you get better. And sometimes it's hard to hear that you've done something wrong, but coachability is absolutely huge. That was an outstanding answer.
But I think that one of the things that with that, you said about doing things wrong. If there is an official who has told you that they have gotten every call right, run.
They're lying.
There's no truth to that.
Nope.
We've all made mistakes. I mean, I've made plenty of mistakes along the way. The thing is you don't want to make the same mistake twice, or you don't want to be consistent with making that same mistake, because therein lies a problem at that point. But we're going to make mistakes. Just have the skin to get over it.
Absolutely. And like you said, the same mistake shouldn't happen more than once. But you're so right. It's learning to have that thick skin and understand that it's much better to have somebody who's in your circle telling you how to get better than somebody who, a coach or somebody else that might be yelling at you about it. Like I'd rather have friendly fire than than hear it from somebody else. So love that. And then kind of as part of that, such a huge part of the officiating foundation really is mentors. What is some of the best advice that you've received from an officiating mentor, and why has that message or those messages stuck with you over the years?
Man, I've received so many messages. There are a couple that stick out. One is officiate every play as if it's the first play of the game.
Ooh,
And
I
I
like that.
think that kind of sets the tone for your mental to go through the entire game. If you break down every play and you officiate it as the first play of the game, I think it helps your focus, or helps you to maintain focus throughout that contest. So that's a good one for me.
Yeah, I like that one.
Yes. Also, there's one where what was it? See everything you call, but don't call everything you see.
Solid advice.
And I think that, younger officials, they get a little turned around with that one, because it's like, hold on, you don't want me to call everything I see? Well, and what we have to do is explain that not every action requires some type of discipline or, it's not an infraction. There could be something that's not going to hurt anybody. And we definitely have to get those fouls that are going to, you know, that are dangerous and going to cause or
Absolutely.
potentially cause some type of injury. But we're talking about those things that we can do to prevent them from doing the same thing over again. So we call that preventative officiating. So if you see something and it's not causing any harm and it's away from the play, there's a talk to that player. So you saw the action, but you didn't call anything because you're going to take this opportunity to go and talk to this player, coach him up a little bit and help them not to make that same mistake twice. Because if they do it again and it's in the vicinity of where the play is happening, then it might cause a penalty or, it could cause less playing time, which most players, they don't want they don't want to be removed from the game because of something they did and it causes them, less playing time. So that's for the preventative aspect of it. You want to make sure that you see the things you call, but don't call everything you see because it's not necessary.
I love that. And I love what you said about having the opportunity to kind of coach a player up. And we talk at our level about it's education-based athletics. It's an extension of the classroom. So if there's an opportunity as an official to teach a kid what they may have been doing wrong so they don't get flagged on the next play that might actually affect the play, that's super important. So allowing yourself the opportunity to be that educator in our space is super important. So
Right.
your season, James, is obviously just around the corner. So what's the next layer that you want to add to your officiating foundation?
Well, you know what? You're adding layers all the time. If you're failing to do that, then you're falling behind. My thing this year is, as a leader of the crew, I just want to, and now I'm the oldest guy on the crew. At one point in time, I was the youngest guy on the crew, or one of the youngest guys, but now I'm one of the older guys. So with my leadership skills, I'm still developing those and, just want to develop them to the point to where I can help these younger guys to get better. I do different things every year, but that's just something I want to do with the younger guys. It's just help them to become better officials because, I'm getting to that point where I'm gonna have to hang the cleats up one day. But I want to leave a legacy. I want guys that will say, this guy helped to train me. This guy taught me this, or this guy just made me a better official. So that's the one thing I'm probably most focused on this year is just helping the younger guys to become better officials.
That's a great answer. And I think one of the coolest things ever, and we talk to a lot of our guests about this, is when you've mentored someone or helped somebody along and you see them succeed. That's like the coolest compliment to you is somebody that you've poured into is now doing something in their officiating career, meeting those goals. If it's, in high school, if it's somebody going from JV to varsity or getting their first state tournament or getting hired into Division II or whatever that looks like, when it's somebody that you've invested in time-wise, wisdom-wise, all of that, seeing them succeed is it's a compliment to you. And it is how you kind of live on even after you do hang up your cleats. So that's a great answer. So we've got one final question for you, and it's one that we ask all of our guests, and that is the From A to Zebra podcast has a mission each week to educate, elevate, and excite our listeners. What can you tell our audience about officiating that accomplishes this mission?
Educate, elevate, and excite.
Yes, sir.
Okay. With the educate part, I think that the communities, coaches, players, communities have to understand that we are there to provide a service, you know, and especially in the high school level, these guys are just starting out. So I think if that's one of the things I would do when I went to schools, I would educate people. Hey, these guys are just starting out. Officiating is something that's learned over a period of time to become a better official. So the grief that they get, when they're first doing the youth games, the high school games, it causes people to want to, walk away. But we want to retain them. So I would think that maybe educate, the communities as a whole as to this is something that we're doing to provide a service to you and just help us to provide a better service. We're going to be, professional. We're going to do the best jobs that we can do. So maybe educate in that particular aspect as far as helping of officials in that arena. elevate through communication, through the professionalism. I think that with the grace that we show players, grace that we show coaches, sometimes it should elevate how they respond and react to what we're doing. If we can be that professional person, if we can be the calm in the eye of the storm, I think it hopefully will elevate how they receive us and how they respond to situations in the game. And so I think that's a part of the elevate aspect of it. And the excite aspect is that, I've had numerous ups and downs in this avocation. It's the officiating avocation has challenged me. It's humbled me. I've seen places and gone places I've never expected that I would be able to go to or be able to see. I've seen athletes or situations that I, would never have been able to see if it wasn't for officiating. So that's the excitement of it. You never know where officiating is going to lead you. So I would tell people, don't look at it. And you see a lot of guys, and when I say guys, I'm talking about gender neutral.
I call everybody in a room guys. I do the same thing.
Okay. So you see people, they have a goal. I want to make it to here. But don't look at officiating as an end point. It's a journey. You can be over here one day, you can be over here the next. So it's a journey, and enjoy the ride while it lasts, and just be the best possible official that you can be and learn everything that you can learn and develop strong relationships with those who've had those experiences that you look forward to obtaining one day.
Man, I love that. Well, James Carter, this has been an absolute joy to visit with you. I always say that the podcast is a little selfish because it's just an opportunity for me to catch up with people that I like. So I appreciate you spending time with me and looking forward to seeing you work this season. So I wish you all the best this season. And thank you so much for everything you do at the grassroots level with the officials at the camp, and just for being such a great ambassador of the avocation and profession. So thank you for your time this episode, and I look forward to the season for you.
Well, thank you, Dana. I appreciate the opportunity, and thank you for what you do. It's needed, and we appreciate everything that you do as well. So thank you.
Thank you. And to our listeners, we want to say thank you for joining us on the From A to Zebra podcast. Don't forget to check us out on Facebook, Instagram, and X for more information about the show. You can also find our full library of podcasts from all seasons on the resources page of refreps.com. Thanks to our friends at RefReps for supporting the show. We'll see you next time.
Be sure to hit that like button, follow, subscribe, and also catch From A to Zebra on Instagram at from_A_2_zebra, Facebook From A to Zebra Podcast, and on X at From A to Zebra.